Howdy boys, another video, another day. Today we're going over my favorite Pokemon games. This is something that's asked often in my stream, so I decided to make a video on it. Hopefully you guys have similar opinions. Probably not. If not, let me know in the comments, but let's get into it. These are going to be my top Pokemon games. We're going from S, A, B, C, D to never played. And believe it or not, there's a few on here that I'm embarrassed to say I've never played. So, a few of the games that I've never played have been the Pokemon Stadium games. I played them when I was a kid at like friends' houses. I've watched people play them. I kind of know about these like Pokemon Coliseum games, Pokemon XD games. But if they weren't on the Game Boy and they were on like the GameCube or some other console, I never played them because growing up I didn't have a GameCube. I'd go to my friends to play Melee or any other fun GameCube games like Mario Party. But that's about all that I haven't played on here. I've pretty much played every single Pokemon game, or at least I've played the subsequent version. So starting off with Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. This is a hot take. Starting off on a hot one. I think these are actually C tier. Yeah, I'd put them C tier because these weren't my favorite games, but I also don't think they were like god awful. They did remaster the 3rd gen, which was a really fun generation for me, one of my favorite, but I got really bored with it quickly. The competitive scene wasn't very fun. The Megas were a nice touch, but they didn't really hit as hard as the Megas did in Generation 6. Overall, pretty good games, just weren't that high for me. And just a note, I pretty much enjoyed playing every single Pokemon game that I've played. I can't name one that I'm like, oh, I'm not having a good time. So even if it has a low ranking, if I was to put it on like an IGN scale, like they'd all probably be like 90% at least. So while we're doing remakes, I'm gonna do Leaf Green and Fire Red. I played these when I was younger, but again, since they were remakes, I didn't get quite into them as I should have. I think bringing the first generation into a greater light is something to be celebrated. Bringing it into the modern day graphics was really cool at the time, but I think since it was still the older game and I've already played it, I didn't care as much. But overall, I think these are super well done. I remember playing these on my phone with an emulator, like in class in school. I don't know if any of you guys do that or did that. So I'll land those in B. I played Fire Red, so I gotta put that above Leaf Green, and same with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Alright, so next up, I think I'm gonna go for another remake. We're gonna do Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu. I think a lot of people would be tempted to throw this down into the D rank, but I actually had a really good time playing it. I think they made enough changes that were quality of life changes that really paid off. Pokemon in the overworld were super cool, and just playing this with a lot of friends and making it more accessible by putting it on the Switch was super handy. So I think overall I'm going to put these in B. Most people I've seen do a tier list like this will actually put them in C or D, but I think it's along the same concept as Fire Red and Leaf Green. It's just remaking that first generation was really fun, putting it into modern day graphics. Alright, so now we're just going to go in order from when the games were released. So starting with Fire Red, or not Fire Red, just Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue. I'm not seeing Blue on here, so I think that was one of just the invisible ones on this like setup. So I actually played Pokemon Red, and then my brother played Blue, and my sister played Yellow. Yellow did come out a couple years later, but we were pretty young when that came out, so it was about time that we all just got the games together. I think these are definitely A, if not S tier games. I'm gonna put them in A for now and see how the rest of my list pans out. I just really enjoyed these games. They were what started me on Pokemon, and they're just super memorable. If anything, being a dirty Gen 1er, I'm tempted to put him in S, but I'm going to refrain from now. I'm going to refrain. Next up is Gen 2. So how this worked is my brother would play Silver, and then I think we had Gold as well, but I was all about Crystal. And this was the first Pokemon game that had a female avatar. This was the first Pokemon game that I think was on the Game Boy Color. Despite this saying color on it, I'm pretty sure they were only on the Game Boy. But overall, these were like a large part of my childhood. I played this more than anything, and this really got me into Pokemon. I remember playing a lot of Red and Blue, but what really like lit the spark under me is probably Crystal. And Gen 2 was just really special for me because I feel like I'm very like color oriented, and going black and white to like this more colorful game was super rewarding. And I really like the story of Gen 2, and honestly, it's probably my favorite generation. To be honest though, something weird about this is I really loved Crystal. I didn't feel the same way about these two games. I don't know why. This is just like a pure emotional attachment, but I think Crystal like stands above these two for me. No logical reason behind that. It's just I love Pokemon Crystal. And Suicune's my favorite legendary Pokemon, so that helps as well. Next up is Gen 3. I had a lot of fun playing Gen 3. Honestly, I can see why people put these like in D now, because I feel like this list is super boosted now after doing that. Because Gen 3 wasn't quite what I wanted it to be for these games. But I think it fits in like super well just below Gen 1 and 2, but definitely above all these remakes. Gen 3 was a great time. I remember playing it in elementary school. The secret bases were super fun, and it felt like a super fleshed out world that was colorful, and there were towns in it that I remember and really got me excited to play more Pokemon. So one remake that I neglected was Heartgold and Soulsilver, and honestly these were as good as the original, if not better. They're obviously better just like how they would hold up, but I remember going back and playing these. I'd already played through Gen 5 before I played these, maybe even Gen 6, and oh god, they held up so well. Having Pokemon follow you for the first time was super cool gimmick, and being able to go back and play against Gen 1 trainers in the same graphics, oh, that was the best post game in Pokemon history, so definitely making the A tier. So looking at Gen 4, I personally didn't have a huge attachment to these games. Nothing against them. I know a lot of people are Gen 4 fanboys in the fact they started with Gen 4, but that's kind of where I lost my interest to Pokemon. Maybe it's just the time I was growing up, but after that I slowly became like a COD god and kind of lost interest in Pokemon in general. Not that the games don't hold up or weren't great. I remember going back and playing them and having a fun time. It's just there wasn't a big difference between Gen 3 and Gen 4 for me, and that really made the difference. So Gen 5 was the holy grail into getting me back into Pokemon, maybe senior year of high school or junior year of high school. And these games are just super well done. This is the first Pokemon game whose story engaged me and that I was actually interested in completing. The battle tower, or not the tower, the tree at the end of the game, the post game was really fun, and I grinded my Pokemon Auto Hundo, and I even started playing competitively. So I started going into Wi-Fi battles. I'd go to my local Starbucks and I'd run it up against people who had IV, EV trained Pokemon, and I'd get my butt handed to me. But that actually sparked my joy of competitive battling. So I think with everything said, I'd honestly put these games in S tier. Like Pokemon Black and White, perfect. And then how you do a remake or a second game is really important, and I think they killed it with Black and White 2, making it almost a whole new story. It was pretty much like a story in the future. It wasn't repetitive playing it like something else on this list. So I think these would go front of A. I personally had a better time playing Black and White, but I know a lot of people like Black and White 2 even better. I played White 2 and then Black on my original playthrough. And then we got Pokemon X and Y. Y was one of those that like turned invisible, so I don't know what to do about that, but Pokemon X was the one I played anyways. I actually probably put more time into this game than any other Pokemon game I've ever played. Maybe Crystal would rival it. I don't remember how much I put into that as a kid. But Pokemon X, I easily put in over 800 hours. I learned how to do competitive battling, EV/IV training. That's when I really got serious about it. I wasn't just hopping into battles and seeing what I could do, but I was really like studying, grinding up, and it gave me something to work on outside of running in high school, which was really cool, really unique, and I think this game also gets an S for me. I know that's really weird, and a lot of people have X and Y even down in the C or D for them, but I think this game was super well put together on the 3DS. They put a lot of thought and care into it, and the first 3D model game really stood out to me, and it felt like it was in a whole nother ballpark outside of X and Y, or outside of Black and White, which is really hard to do for me since I love those games so much. So I think like this was the time that I got really into Pokemon, so those games stand out to me. And then we had Sun and Moon. I was super hopeful for those because they were kind of scrapping the same formula that we've always had. Playing in Alola was a lot of fun, but I don't think it had the same nostalgia as some of the games on the list, like Gen 2 and Gen 1. And then the story wasn't nearly as compelling as Black and White and Black and White 2. And then I didn't have like that hour sync that I had in Gen 6. So I'm gonna throw these in B because I think they were solid games altogether. Just they don't stand out compared to everything else in the series. And then the last two games I have is Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. These are gonna be D. I'm sorry, they just weren't enough for me. They felt like not different at all from Sun and Moon, which I already thought were middle of the road Pokemon games. So that's just kind of where we're at. I'm sorry, I haven't actually beaten Ultra Sun yet. I put it off because I got bored of it. And I've never done that with a Pokemon game before. So I'm actually making it a goal for me to go back and beat it while I'm in quarantine. Also, one last thing to point out is that Sword and Shield, along with a lot of other games like Mystery Dungeon, weren't on the list. Sword and Shield I'd probably put around B, like high B, and then Mystery Dungeons would probably fall around C. But those are the only ones that were left off that I really care about. There obviously are some like Detective Pikachu and even some of the Pokemon Ranger games, but I don't have a strong opinion about those one way or the other. Alright, hopefully you guys enjoyed me rambling on about Pokemon games that I've played throughout the years. I feel like a lot of them are nostalgic based, but also this list actually kind of evened its way out. I thought it would be really heavily weighted towards S and A, but it kind of made its way in. I think definitely kind of loaded up A. S, these games I just would play anytime, anywhere, and then B, C, these are the occasional plays for me. I think I'm really hesitant to put a remake up high, so that might influence my takes. But let me know what you guys think. What would you have in your S tier? What would you have in your D? This has been the Clark Knight. Hopefully you enjoy this video. I'll see you guys around. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to my Twitch, or follow rather, and follow me on Twitter because I post when I go live. But I'll see you guys later. Peace.
I'm a hit superstar. I got 2D hoes, you know who we are. You look fresh to death, hopping out the car. Anime girls running from here and far. Young Sip, I got the game on lock. 2D girls trying to get up on a job. Yeah, Young Sip, I got the game on lock. I'm always shy, let me show you how we rock.